The most extraordinary day of Zoya's life was when she bought a stroller. It looked brand new, but it was half price. It was a forced measure. The girl had little money, no one to help her, and the stroller was very necessary, because her daughter Sarah was growing fast, and it was already hard to carry her for a walk in her arms. At home, Zoya decided to wash the purchase, if there was any dirt on it. Under the mattress she found a paper folded several times. A check, Zoya thought, but unfolded the paper. Reading the short handwritten text left her astonished. Zoya was alone with a child in her arms, not because, like many children from orphanages, after graduation from institutions and adulthood, she had fallen into bad habits and parties. No, she was a serious girl. She had dreamed of a family since childhood, and she had all the chances to build her life the way it should be. She had been in an orphanage when she was 6 years old, and she remembered life in her home with horror. Her parents had a drinking problem. So Zoya and her younger brothers, one 2 years old and the other still a baby, ended up in the orphanage. No matter how bad her mother was, Zoya missed her very much at first, waiting for her parents to come and take her away. But she never did. According to rumors, her parents continued to drink alcohol and have new children, who were also taken away from the family, so Zoya did not even know how many brothers and sisters she had. In the orphanage she did not live so badly, as she was a smart, diligent girl with a good character. It was there that she met Henry, her age. As they began to grow up, they realized that their attraction to each other was not just friendship, not a dream of a close relative, but the most real love. They decided that after graduation from the orphanage they would get married and live together. But there was no hurry. First, it is necessary to get on their feet at least a little. After graduation from the orphanage, they received a one-room apartment, as well as a little money, which gave orphans the opportunity to start an independent life. After graduating from vocational school, Henry and Zoya finally decided to get married. The girl was already 3 months pregnant. And everything seemed to be fine with them. The young family lived in Henry's apartment, and Zoya rented out her apartment, because they were always short of money and had to start living from scratch. There were no parents, no inheritance, no simple household goods. Having received a salary, young people sometimes did not know what to buy first of all, chairs or dishes. And every day there were more and more needs. And soon there would be a child, and it was scary to imagine how many things the baby needed. They both worked at the same company after college. Henry also worked part-time as a driver in the evenings. But all difficulties are surmountable when people are young, love each other and dream of living happily together until old age. That's exactly what Zoya thought. She has a husband, they have a place to live. And soon, having saved more money, they will be able to exchange their one-bedroom apartment for one, more spacious apartment, where there will be room for not one, but 2 children. The girl often shared her dreams with her husband, and for a while she didn't notice that Henry was less and less enthusiastic about her plans. Yes, Henry soon became bored with family life, which promised nothing good and extraordinary. Often in the evenings, pining and waiting for the next client, he thought with annoyance. Well, I'm 20 years old. Soon it will be 21, but what difference does it make? What's waiting for me? Work, worries, austerity in order to once a month to afford some entertainment. And what would that be? Going to the movies with Zoya. Have a beer with the guys at the bar. And that's it. That's how it's gonna be until I retire. There's no change in sight. Oh, I'm a fool for getting married so early. It was my cowardice. How can I, poor man, live alone? Who'll cook, who'll take me to work and meet me in the evening? I was afraid of loneliness. I'd live on my own, alone. What else do you need? I have an apartment. Bring whoever you want. Do whatever you want. And now I'm not coming alone, and there's Zoya with her cutlets and soups. And not even 6 months later. There'll be a baby screaming day and night. No sleep, no rest after work. One day, in the midst of these sad thoughts, a passenger who struck Henry's fancy got into his car. It was a girl named Marguerite. Bright, beautiful. Dressed, perhaps not very richly, but, as they say, stylishly. Except she was sad, upset about something. Just like Henry. She sat in the car, in the front seat, and didn't say a word. Looking away absent-mindedly, not saying anything. "Where are we going?" Henry asked, thinking to himself. "I wouldn't be sad with a woman like that. And I hope she's with me." "I don't know." "I don't care," she said. "Don't hesitate. Go ahead and go on. I've got the money. When you get bored, just drop me off, that's all." "I won't get bored," Henry replied with a strained voice. Henry, starting the car. "Is there a problem? Are you a doctor or a priest?" The girl grinned sadly. "Nothing's happened to me. That's the thing. Nothing happens. Do you know of any interesting places in town?" And Henry realized he didn't. No, he knew the city, the streets, the routes, but no interesting places. "No, I don't know," he answered honestly, and he finished unexpectedly. "Nothing happens to me either. But only meeting you. You are extraordinary somehow." They drove along the deserted road, exchanging meaningless phrases that became more and more meaningful. Soon Henry knew that the girl's name was Marguerite, that she was 26 years old, and that she was not happy with her life, because everything seemed to be there, everything was good, but there was something important missing, and something worth living for was not coming. "Marguerite," replied Henry. "Is something like that troubling you, Henry? You are younger than I am. It shouldn't be so." "Oh, yes. I'm 21. And I've got the most important things, a wife and a baby on the way. I've got a studio apartment, a job, a part-time job, responsibilities. That's all. And this is forever. I'll never get out of it. You want one of these, the main one." He said it not angrily, but with despair, like a child who got a Santa Claus toy instead of the one he ordered. "Poor you. A confused little boy." Suddenly Margarita stroked his head. "How did your mother let you go to such a cruel life so early?" "I don't have a mother. I never had one. I came from an orphanage. I just wanted a family, I wanted people to love me. Zoya, my wife, I've known her all my life. From the orphanage. Then we went to college together. Now at work. And at home, too. She's good, but..." "Poor you. But it's not too late for you to fix it. There's time. The important thing is not to miss it," Marguerite whispered to him. And so began the affair of Henry, who was about to become a father. At first he hid his affair, and Zoya, inexperienced, did not guess the reason for the changes in her husband's mood. All the excuses about his frequent absences from home were inadequate. When he came back, he looked at his household with more and more disgust. He remained an orphan, reluctantly ate ineptly prepared dishes, and answered his wife's questions with distaste. Margarita, as it turned out, lived in a rented apartment. She worked in a good firm and seemed to be seriously attached to her young lover. He was getting everything he dreamed of with her. And more. Margarita was a motherly and caring, and passionate, and much knowledgeable woman. Every day he fell in love more and more, and the burden of Zoe and the child that was about to be born seemed more and more insignificant. Marguerite supported him in these reflections. "There's no need for reflection, Henry. What's the big deal? Everybody gets divorced. You're not going to throw her out on the street. She's got an apartment. Well, you'll give them money. Yeah. That's what Henry says. She wanted an older man, a man of status, and she's stuck on you, poor thing. Every day the mistress's arguments seemed more and more convincing. But Henry refrained from taking decisive action for the time being. Marguerite approved of that, too. That's right, wait until after the birth. You mustn't upset pregnant women, or they'll give birth to a sick child, and you'll be tormented for the rest of your life. Even these disparaging words of Marguerite did not touch Henry, but it was his child we were talking about. But he had no feelings for him or his wife except annoyance. He was determined that as soon as the baby was born he would tell Zoya that a divorce was necessary. She would leave his apartment, where she could live happily with Margarita. And that's how it turned out. The due date came. The frightened Zoya was taken to the maternity hospital, from where the glad tidings soon came. Henry had fathered a beautiful baby girl. Well, his wife is no longer pregnant, there's no need to keep her safe. But he could not talk to her frankly now, for he was not allowed into the ward, and he did not want to write a letter. So he confined himself to packing Zoya's things. With Margaret's help, he bought some things for the baby at the children's store. Diapers, blankets. Now let anyone try to say you didn't take care of the baby, Margarita said as she helped him pack. And you can help me translate it all later. And you and I need to start living and settling in quickly. It's not a bad apartment, but it's obvious that the landlady is no good. It's all so gray and stale. I've already picked out some fancy curtains at the store. Yes. Soon your life will change completely. She's already unrecognizable. However, next to you, any hovel would be paradise. And you have no idea what it would be. The mistress promised. Zoya guessed that her life is not the most joyful changes, when her husband came to meet her from the hospital. He took the pink bundle in his hands indifferently, without even looking at his daughter's face or kissing his wife, and handed her a cheap bouquet. Aren't you glad, Henry? The young mother asked in surprise. Do you wish you'd had a boy? Come on, the cab's waiting, replied Henry. He didn't know how to explain himself to Zoe, afraid of her reaction. What if she started crying, screaming, refused to leave? The man thought. Well, she'd always been quiet, but they say things can change after the birth. That's all I need. It's good that Margarita is already home. Maybe Zoya won't have a concert with her. Yes, he was afraid to explain to his wife in private, so he asked his mistress to be present. And Margarita agreed. When she and the baby entered the house, Zoya looked around in bewilderment. And the crib, stroller you have not prepared. Margarita came out of the room smiling, radiant. Don't worry, Zoya. Zoya, everything is ready, the crib is still packed and the rest like strollers and other things you can buy yourself later, but there are diapers, and toys, and pacifiers. Henry bought everything, and Henry packed your things. Well, speak, Henry, don't be shy. She encouraged her lover. Yes, Zoya, I've decided that we should split up. This is Margarita, and she and I are going to live here. I mean, we already do. Yes. Henry blurted out. What do you mean? Zoya sat back in her chair, confused. Are you kidding, Henry? Well, what kind of jokes? People get divorced, what's so surprising? We'll go to your apartment and live there with the baby. But there's a tenant, you know. Ask him to move out, what's the problem? The child will grow up soon, you'll go to work, now the state helps, and I'll help as much as possible. Don't make a tragedy out of nothing, I'm begging you. Why didn't you tell me before? You can't do that. He was taking care of you, Zoya, you have to understand, Margarita intervened. Let me call a cab. Let's not drag this out, you need to rest, feed the baby, whatever else. And Henry and I should be alone. We'll help you carry it all, don't worry. Zoya sighed. Call it in. You've made up your mind, I see. Thank you for the gifts and the surprise for Sarah and me. Zoya wasn't killed by the news, although it wasn't pleasant. The young mother had a premonition that something bad was coming, some changes in her life, but she hoped that everything would be fine, or at least not so drastic. She wasn't going to cry and beg in front of this confident, well-groomed, beautiful woman, and she didn't plan to leave her husband and wife alone. Henry's behavior proved that his decision was final. He took absolutely no interest in his daughter. Called her impersonally. A child. How will I be alone now? What will the lodger say? I can't just kick him out like that, can I? Zoya thought. In the meantime, a cab pulled up. Henry and Marguerite picked up their things and carried them out of the apartment. Zoya followed with a suddenly crying Sarah. I told you not to wait. How long is she going to scream? Margarita grumbled unhappily. I can't stand baby squeaks. Give her a pacifier or something. I dread to imagine that I would have to live among all this for a long time. Sneakily whispered the young father to his new favorite. And here they were in front of the door of Zoya's apartment. She had the keys, but she called, it was not good to barge in on a stranger without warning. The lovers put their things down and hurried away. You can take it from here, Zoya. There's a cab waiting for us. The door was opened by Constantine, the young man who had rented the apartment from Zoya. He stared perplexed at the landlady and her child and at the things piled by the door. Hello, Valeria. Hello, Constantine, Zoya said tiredly. I'm sorry, it's me. I have nowhere to go, can you imagine? What happened? Something with your husband. Come in, of course. Are these your things? I'll get them, come in, don't stand in the draft. Who's that? A girl? Congratulations. Yes, Sarah. What happened was that our daddy found someone else and kicked us out of the house right after the hospital. Zoya went into the kitchen, sat on a stool. Honestly, I only found out about it an hour ago, that's why I couldn't warn you. And now I have nowhere to go but here. But I'm not chasing you away, don't get the wrong idea. Yeah, it's a story. Come on in, make yourself comfortable. I'll figure something out, someone will take you in, and then I'll get another apartment. It's not a problem. Is that a crib or a bassinet? I'll see if I can put it together. Zoya was so touched by this stranger's participation that tears flowed from her eyes. Thank you very much, and I'm sorry, I didn't mean to. I need to change my daughter's diaper, feed her. Just do whatever you need to do. If there's anything you need help with, just let me know. Don't be shy. The crib will be ready now, but there's no bathtub. There's a large basin in the bathroom, quite suitable for bathing such a baby. After Zoya had fed and put the girl in the crib, she and the tenant sat down in the kitchen to drink tea. Do you know, Constantine, what I was thinking? Zoya began. You don't have to leave at all. You can stay here for half the rent, of course. You'll live in a room, and the kitchen will be fine for me and Sarah. It's big. You see, I don't have much money, so I can't count on the elements. I don't know if I can get anything from Henry. Maternity pay's gonna run out fast. When am I gonna get my allowance? I'm not gonna be able to get a job anytime soon. So I could use the money, you know. The girl seems calm, she won't bother you too much. Well, let's do that. Actually, you can stay in the room and I'll stay in the kitchen. I'll go and buy a cot, don't worry. And I'll still pay. No way. You rented the apartment without encumbrances, and suddenly there are 2 extra people. The woman smiled weakly. I'm not used to being a burden to anyone. Besides, maybe Henry will come to his senses. I wanted us to have a complete family. Tears came to her eyes again. Well, I don't know what kind of burden that is. I don't know what a burden that is. But I don't think it's advisable for you to cry today. You know, I've often heard that women have some kind of postpartum depression. Maybe your husband has something